Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I have a creepy phone call story for you. It was about 2 or 3 years ago. I was sitting in my dorm room watching Godzilla movies, Godzilla vs. Mothra I believe. It was about 3 in the morning and I get a call on my cell phone. I pick it up and this girl whose voice I don't recognize starts giggling on the other end of the line. Hello? I say after a few moments.
Hi Anon, do you miss Angie?
I'm thinking, who the fuck is Angie? I ask who she is and she just starts giggling again and says,
Silly. It's Angie, how can Anon forget after all we've done together?
Okay, firstly, she sounds like a middle school girl and knows my number and name, which is really weird. I start saying, look, Angie, I think you have the wrong num.
Don't play dumb.
I actually flinch from the phone in surprise.
You know who Angie is, Anon, and Angie called because she misses you.
It should be noted at this point that I'm a total neckbeard who spends most of his time playing games, watching anime and jerking off, except for irregular instances where I clean myself up and go to parties, work out, and even get a girlfriend for a month or so before settling back into this routine. Also, I tend to drink a lot and have a difficult time remembering people I only recently met. As such, I begin to wonder if I met her somewhere before and decide to play it cool and say, oh right Angie, sorry. I didn't recognize your voice, why are you calling so late? She just starts laughing again and says,
Have you been cheating on me, Anon?
I'm like, what the fuck? So I say, no. She stops laughing now, and I realize I missed the 2 baby Mothras kicking Godzilla's ass.
Anon, you know better than to lie to me. I saw you with.
She names this female friend I occasionally hang out with, who I think is pretty hot but still just friends. Now I'm really creeped out and wonder who the fuck this is because I don't know any girls named Angie and she seems to know way too much about me. She goes on to say,
if you're that lonely, maybe I should just come over.
Now I'm starting to consider what I should do and say, wait, what are you talking about? How do you know where I am? She goes,
silly, how could you forget when we made love the other day? It was beautiful.
She then goes into a very explicit description of when we apparently fucked with creepily accurate details of me. Mind you, this couldn't have been my ex since she is from another country and has a strong accent I would have recognized. I interrupt her going, okay, just stop that, enough, I don't know who the fuck you are, but this isn't funny, what do you want? She's silent for a few moments before saying very seriously,
Anon knows better than to cheat on Angie. Enjoy your movie.
With this she hangs up and I bolt the door.
This is still something I can't make sense of. It happened about 2 years ago. Get home from work late and take a shower, it's around 12:30 in the morning. Get out of the shower and have 3 missed calls from a restricted number and 1 voicemail. Listen to it and it's just a bunch of white noise. Few days pass and I forget all about it. I'm out with my GF getting food and my phone starts going off the restricted number again. I answer it and it's white noise again, followed by what sounds like someone turning radio stations, and then stops on the song Don't Fear the Reaper. Fucking weirded out now, I hang up. I try to reverse call the number, but it won't work because it's restricted. After that, all hours of the night my phone ring for weeks with the same restricted number and leaving white noise voicemails. It got so bad I finally changed my number, and as soon as I changed the number, within a day the phone calls started again. Now they were less frequent, maybe 1 or 2 a day compared to the 10 or more I was receiving every day. I go to the phone company again and explain to them what is going on. They now want to charge me to change the number again. I argue with them and they eventually waive the fee. At this point, it's becoming more of a pain in the ass than creepy. I have to keep giving my new number out to people. I have the new number for about a month with no calls, and then out of nowhere one day the calls start coming in once again. Now the person is calling every few hours. Every time I answer it they hang up on me. If I don't answer it I get a voicemail of white noise, or other times static like radio stations that you can barely make the music out on. I'm not changing the number again. This time, I just try to ignore it.
This is a true story, only just remembered it now. Teenager in about 2001 or 2. Just got one of those Nokia phones. Didn't really know what to do with it. None of my friends had phones, but had a bit of money on it. Mostly, just my parents' way of keeping track of me. Stay at friend's house one day. We wake up in the morning bored. We get the bright idea to start prank calling people. Being stupid teenagers, we start doing a bunch of random numbers. None of them get through but one. At first, it's just a normal guy. We start spouting some shit trying to be funny. Guy on the other end stays calm, doesn't say much aside from,
"You shouldn't call here,"
and then abruptly hangs up. First response we got, so we immediately call back. Get an answer phone message that says the number doesn't exist, different from the one where the phone is switched off. Can't get back in touch with them, so we leave it and forget about it. Couple of nights later I'm chilling with a few of the same people and I get a phone call. It's the same fucking number I called a few days back. Put them on speakerphone so we can have a laugh. Could hear nothing but really loud bubbling, like the phone was underwater. Can hear audible crying over the top of that. Then someone shouting something really loudly, but no idea what it was. Call ends. Try calling back and all we hear is that same bubbling. Call one last time.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
I wish I was lying, but that did happen. I had fucking nightmares for weeks. It was probably someone just fucking with us, but even so it creeped me out pretty bad.
Used to have a GF in middle school. Stay up late talking on the phone because I was a cool, edgy 13 years old. I noticed when I was a kid that when sitting in one spot on my floor I can hear an odd soft beeping noise with my ears. Sit on the floor while on the phone so I can reach the charger. While on the phone, sitting in that spot, the beeping beings coming from the phone itself. Think nothing of it because I am hyped to have QTGF to talk to. Every so often I hear voices while on the phone with her. It sounds almost like I'm momentarily tapping into radio stations or other calls. Soft music or chatter can be heard. One night it was noticeably worse than the others. After a few minutes of chatter it managed to drown out my real call. It goes silent before blaring strange chanting like music loud enough to be on speakerphone. It's very breathy and I'm very spooked, so I mute it. Turn the sound back on every few seconds to see if it's over. It didn't end up hanging up and calling her back after 5 minutes. She said on her side of the call it just went silent and she thought my mom caught me on the phone or something. So it didn't happen again for years. I was probably 18 at the time and had found a new Sweetie 3.14 and she liked talking on the phone too, coincidentally enough. And honestly, the event when I was younger wasn't that bad and I had entirely forgotten about it until this happened. So I still live in the same house and the beeping is still there, just a part of life now. But once I start talking on the phone again I notice that my phone itself begins acting up again. Now this girl had a lot of issues with her parents, and her mother had nearly choked her to death before, but she never went to the police and nothing came of it. But yet again on a night where the static was worse than usual, I dropped her call and began hearing someone else's call. Of course I didn't know I was, and it happened right as she said she was going to the bathroom, but the call itself was totally different this time. There was screaming and crying, and it was muffled, like someone in a different room or with the phone in their pocket. It went on for 15 minutes, peaking in panic near the 12-minute mark, after which I could hear the phone being knocked around, and the screams went from, "Please," to "No," and "Stop," before eventually ending with nothing but a soft cry being heard for the last minute. Assuming that her mother lashed out again and had left the room, I hung up and called back, hoping she was okay. She picks up the phone and sounds calm as hell, like she just woke up from a nap. Ask her WTF happened, and she said she had no clue what I was talking about, saying that I had been playing music from my phone for the past 15 minutes. I told her what happened, but she had zero explanation for it and seemed bored of the topic, so I dropped it and went on with the conversation, planning to check her body for bruises or marks the next day. She had none.
Holy shit. Literally just woke up and I came here because some shit just went down and I'm fucking terrified. It was probably a dream, but I don't know. Hear me out, it's a long story. Be me 2 days ago. Wake up at 6 p.m. Decide to fix my sleeping schedule and pull an all-nighter. It's all good to decide to watch some films and play some video games. 1 a.m. decide to go for a walk and get some snacks from a supermarket about 3 kilometers away. Live in a medium-sized city in Eastern Europe. From my place to the supermarket it's like 1 kilometer of urban area, then 2 kilometers of woods with no buildings area. I always hated the woods part because only like a third of the walk has streetlights. Walk normally, no people around, very silent everywhere, quite relaxing. Then you hit the area with no streetlights. Take your smartphone and use a flashlight app because there's usually some shit on the walkway and it's dark as fuck. Still quite relaxed, because I've walked this path many times and it's quite a heavily used road even at night. Reach the midpoint of the area with no streetlights. At this point I don't even think of the darkness, just minding my own business. Suddenly a young guy comes out of the woods and asks me,
"Why are you here?"
He asked these in my own language. Be sort of surprised because the guy came out of nowhere in the middle of nowhere and the question was absurd. Answer to the guy: I don't know, I'm going to the supermarket. At this point the guy just looks at me, then starts to look at his shoes like the way if you check have you stepped on a dog shit. Just wonder what the fuck is this guy and what the fuck he is doing. Say, okay, I think I keep going. Keep walking slowly until I'm like 50 meters away from the guy and check back and he's still standing there. He shouts at me,
"You know you're supposed to be running."
Just think that this guy is just some fucker addict trolling me. The guy looked like an addict with his dirty clothes, pale skin, shitty teeth and odd eyes. Don't mind his shouting and just keep walking normally. Hear some loud banging from the woods like someone hitting metal with metal. And then crackling and people or something running from the forest. It sounded pretty terrifying, so I started to run also because I ain't waiting for who's coming from the woods. Run back to the area where streetlights start again and catch my breath. Look back, nothing there, back to silence. Walk to the supermarket, buy my snacks. Think about what happened in the walkway. Decide that it was probably just some addicts getting drunk or something in the woods. Pay for my shit. Walk out and second think if I should walk the same path or go a longer path with streetlights. Decide to take the longer path. It's like 5 kilometers but streetlights all the way. Walk normally to the halfway until I see the same junky looking guy running towards me from the alleyway. Stop and ask, "Who the fuck are you?" Guy stops running and says,
"Niko, how aren't you running?"
Be sort of confused and just say, "What the fuck?" Guy says,
"Look at the sky."
Look and see nothing there. Guy starts to run away back to the alleyway. Keep walking, but now I am pretty fucking scared. Think about why he said Niko. Maybe his name was Niko also. Keep wondering what the fuck is that guy rest of the way. Get home, start to get my mind on video games and stuff. Suddenly doorbell rings at 3 a.m. Go to open the door. Check from the loophole who's there. My neighbor who's an like 80-year-old lady. Open the door and ask, "Can I help?" The old lady says some gibberish that I can't understand. Ask if I should call help. Lady starts to repeat something like this.
Vas calico era tumar, vas calico era tumar, vas calico era tumar.
Means nothing in my language or any other that I know of. Old lady says then, "I can go to sleep now, I'm sorry." Old lady walks back to her apartment. Think that she was maybe sleepwalking, but considering all the weird shit that has happened tonight. Feel pretty afraid, but try to keep on playing video games. Around 6 a.m. Get a phone call from someone. Can't see from who. Can't answer it because phone lags and I have to restart it. Check log, one number has been called. Start to overthink the situation. Decide to take a shower. Start to watch a movie. Get my snacks from the fridge. Start to chill. Again, someone in the door. It's the junky looking guy. See him clearly now, looks something like straight out of camp. Too scared to open the door. Scream, "What?" Guy still standing behind my door, not saying anything. Bangs my door few times and shouts,
Just open the door, Niko. You should know me, friend.
"No, I don't." Junkie guy walks away. Be literally terrified. Never seen that guy. How the fuck he found me? He knows my name. Can't focus on anything anymore. Keep checking windows. Phone starts to ring again, but can't answer it because it lags again. Restart the phone again, it says that number 1 has called. Hours pass. 11 a.m. Still fucking confused and afraid, but back to playing video games. Hear mail dropping from the door. Go to check the mail. Some bills and advertisements. Then a handwritten envelope. Open it. 2 sentences in the letter.
We hear you out. Doesn't matter, you have a hole in your head.
Again, get fucking scared and terrified. What is this fucking madness? Tired as fuck. I can't go to sleep yet and I'm too scared to do so anyways. Hours pass. Around 3 p.m. Another phone call. Answer it and it's the junky looking guy by the sound of it. "Hello.
What's your address, friend, and where are you going?"
Just yell, "Who the fuck are you?" Guy hangs up. Think that this must be some sort of fucking trolling or I am crazy. Start to lose it, constantly paranoid. Hours pass, nothing really happens. Around 9 p.m. I fell asleep. Wake up at 4 a.m. See a nightmare where I see this junky looking guy sitting at my PC. Tell me to come and check something out. I go and watch. He types to the Google, CAEM and some numbers, and can't remember anymore. Tried to Google but found nothing because I'm paranoid as F now. Video comes out. It's me as a child, creepy ass old video. I have a hole in my head. There's other kids also with holes in their head. The holes are so big that I don't even have eyes. I'm just moving or something. There are some adults saying something like, "Look what he's doing now." Wake up literally sweating and terrified. See just flashes of me as a child having a hole size of a fist in my head. Literally the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. This nightmare happened a few hours ago. I'm quite a terrible writer and my English isn't perfect. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but so far nothing has happened this morning. I'm still terrified. Try to Google like 50 times CAEM Aroxa, not sure if it was just like that in my dream, found nothing. There were numbers also. Don't know if I'm going crazy. Just literally came to X and saw this thread and decided to write this one out. I don't usually lurk here, but this is the first X thing that has happened to me and I dunno what I should do. Was it even real or WTF? I still have the letter but I don't see phone calls on my phone. I'm fucking scared.
Be me. 16. Our school was holding an overnight stay. Me and some friends decided to go and watch Space Jam and shit. One of the teachers realized I didn't have my permission slip from a parent. I forgot about it completely. They say that I can go to their office with them and they'll get in contact with my mother. They ask me my mother's number. I don't have a phone, so it's not like I'm going to remember it. He manages to supposedly find out the number anyway, and rings her even though he doesn't even have her number.
Hello Ms. Anand, this is Anand's teacher. I was wondering if you gave him permission to come on the overnight stay?
The reply he gives to what she says makes me think she was explaining why I didn't have the permission slip, typical motherly stuff. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but from his response you could make out the general conversation. I go off with my friends after getting permission. I was slightly suspicious that he talked to her without having her phone number, and it couldn't have been her phone he called at all because she had recently gotten a new phone. Shrug it off, return to Space Jam. After already having suspicions about it not being my mother on the phone, I ask her. To my surprise, she's confused about it, has no idea anyone called. She was out with friends all day, never had a single conversation on the phone in the time I was there. Ask my sister, since she could be called ms.anon, she also has no idea what I'm talking about. My surname is pretty unique, so it's not like some other kid's parent answered and was confused thinking their own child forgot the permission slip. Another woman out there went by my surname, completely understood what my teacher was talking about, and somehow never questioned him when they were talking and mentioning me. Either that or my teacher wasn't even on the phone and was pretending to talk to my mother right beside me. Either way, it's sorta freaky.
Scariest phone call you ever got? This doesn't exactly fit, but it's related. I grew up in a small house in the woods with a swamp and a pond very close, so there were a lot of animals. I was a very paranoid child to the point that I'd work myself into panic attacks over hearing the house creak or something outside and let my imagination run wild. I got to about 4th or 5th grade when there'd be a period of time before going to the bus stop in the mornings when I was home alone. My parents knew this would be hard for me and let me call them at work when I needed to so they could calm me down. One day, I was hearing a lot of noises outside. I was trying to keep telling myself it's just animals in the woods, but was getting more worked up. Then there was a loud cracking noise and I panicked and decided to call my dad. This was back in the days where phones still had cords. I ran to the kitchen phone and started dialing, but realized I was pressing the wrong buttons, so I held that reset button thing down and tried again, but when I put my ear to the phone I could only hear myself breathing. I thought I must not have held the button long enough. I held it longer and dialed again. I only heard my breathing again. This made me even more panicked since I was losing time against whatever my perceived threat was. I got this crazy idea and, when I reset the phone again, I held the receiver away from my face and covered it so my breath wouldn't get picked up. I still heard breathing and realized that it wasn't mine. I said hello. The sound stopped and I realized that it was coming from someone on the only other phone in my house, just down the hall in my parents' room. I could hear shuffling around. I dropped the phone. Fight or flight kicked in and I ran barefoot out of my house over what were normally really painful rocks and debris. I ran off our property and, luckily, a neighbor just happened to see the fear on my face and waved me over. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood that relates to my paranoia and whatnot, and some things that I suspect is related to the story, but I don't know for sure because there's not enough evidence. I think my parents still keep a lot of info from me even though I'm an adult now. Some more stuff that I know is related is this. The neighbor who I ran to was my best friend growing up and was a year younger than me. I'll call him B. I'd often go over there in the mornings before we'd head to the bus stop together. When he let me in that morning, I remember still being panicked and making him lock up the doors and windows. He was already scared just seeing how afraid I was, and I told him what happened and he told me to call 911. As I was on the phone, B told me to look outside. We saw a pickup truck driving wildly off my property and down the road, past B's house. An officer arrived at B's house and took us back to my place where the door was wide open and some things scattered. We went to my parents' room and every other part of the house. As far as I could tell, nothing had been taken. B and I went to school and I ended up getting out early. I don't remember how, but word got to my mom that someone broke in when I was alone, but that's all she knew. So, apparently, she and brother thought I got murdered or something and were crying when they got my school. Anyway, the truck that drove off wildly passed by the bus stop at the time when the older, middle school, kids were there. B's older sister said they all took note of it and saw the truck drive into the nearby park. B's older sister was friends with a middle-aged creep who lived nearby, a lot of weirdos and stories where I grew up, and would go on walks with him sometimes. A week or so after the break-in, B's older sister and the creep walked past a driveway with the same truck in it. B's older sister told my mom and the police, who then interviewed people at the house. It turns out that one of the sons was allowed to use that truck to go to school and church but swore he didn't break in or anything, that he was at school at the time. Police never did anything, but there wasn't a whole lot to go on and our police were incompetent. My brother knew the two brothers who lived there and had he and his friends jumped the guy we suspected. I still don't know 100% who did it though. Even though I know it all happened, a part of me has a hard time believing it and was stressful for a while because I'd sometimes tell myself it was just my paranoia and wild imagination behind all of it. Then I remember other people saw the truck too though. I was really afraid of trucks that looked like that for a long time afterward. B and I were obviously very anxious about related matters for a while too. We'd work each other into these weird hysteria things sometimes in the mornings before school where we'd sit around with knives to defend ourselves, paralyzed with fear because we heard a weird noise. I overheard my parents talking not long after the incident about the police finding pry bar marks on my bedroom window and that they knew about indications of our house being broken into repeatedly over the years. I didn't tell my parents I heard that and it obviously terrified me even more. There was another incident with, what I think, was the same truck. I don't remember how long after the first incident, but it was still during the time when B and I would work ourselves into a panic. I was spending the night at B's and we started noticing some noises and getting more anxious. We decided to go upstairs and get some knives and sit on the couch. When we got to the couch, we noticed a truck sitting outside, so we ducked down and watched it for a while. Then we heard a really loud cracking sound that made us run out of the room. We thought about waking up B's dad, but he was a really angry person and we didn't know if it would be worth it. We worked up the courage to go back to the window and we saw nothing out there anymore. We were still scared and were thinking that maybe we should figure out how to get to my place. I remember pacing around and, when my back was turned, B whisper yelled my name. I turned toward the window and realized the truck had been there the whole time. Its lights turned back on and tires started screeching. I almost pissed myself, but the truck drove off. I ended up getting my mom to take B and I back to my place. There were a lot of other strange things that would happen in my neighborhood, the woods, etc. as I was growing up. Most of the people there, including myself, were really bizarre and I have mixed feelings about the person that town, the people, and my family made me become. I forgot to mention that I also overheard my parents talking about how the truck matched the description of another truck and how that was making them consider boarding up our windows. Part of what made this all harder on me was that it all happened not long after the resolution of my mom facing increasingly intense stalking over the course of several years. So, even as a little kid, the idea of someone or some group of people making a concerted effort to terrorize me didn't seem far-fetched.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.